Okay, now that we've tidied up the code, we can start thinking about what we need to do next, which we still need to be able to input values into the database. So we've still got two tables that we need to work with. We've got the event table, which is very simple. What I mean by that is it's only got one field that we need to put information into, the event. But we've got the lived at table, which is a link table through person, location and event. They're all linked to it with these IDs as foreign keys. The information that's going in is relatively simple. However, the way we approach it is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to tackle the event one first, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the lived at one. So, the event. Now that I've tidied up all my code and made it much smaller, I feel that I can probably just amend this really quickly to get what I want happening. So I'm just going to save this as and call this add event.php and just edit the file. So really I've only got one field to know whether I'm going to be inserting or not, which is the event. So that is the only field I need to really check for whether it's been set or not. So I can delete pretty much all of this. Just make sure I've got the right amount of open and close brackets. Okay, and let's change that for event. Now, again, I'm not worried too much about the empty side of things, but I do need to check whether it's empty or not, and then read the value from the URL or the body. Job done. Don't need that one. There is no field. This is a required field, so we must post an event. It's got to have a value, which is why we're checking whether it's not empty or not. We're not allowed to sort of leave it empty, but there's no other field, so I don't need any of that code. And then just my query to manage. Let's not make the same mistake again. Let's make sure we get the correct table, the correct values, event ID, and there's only one item being event. And we're going to stick with the null, and now this is going to be a little bit tricky, making sure that we keep the right amount of quotes, opening and closing quotes. I think I've got one too many there. I can always check this with an echo the query to the web page, and then I'll see what the value is. But that looks fine, apart from I am not putting a single quote around it. So remember, all of that is going to be replaced with the value. So I need the single quotes around the value for the database. So pretty much there. I need to change that for event, not first line. Run query, result status. Okay, so I again need to check if we're empty here for the JSON message. And that's just about it. And again, I need to have a message for event. So if I go over to the lib, I can add yet another line to my message. So the event, you must supply an event. So it's birth, marriage, death, whatever it is. So I've now got my message. Back to that. I think, other than little mistakes, there's one mistake there. So I've got latitude, that needs to be event. I think we now have everything we need. Just make sure the table's called event as well. So just checking through the code, seems to be fine. So I can save that, and what I need to do is save the library as well, and I need to create the form to actually send an event to see if we're actually filling the table or not. So if I open the previous form, have we got anything down here that I can do? Test add location, that will do. File, save as, test add, event. Let's just put the .html on just to be sure. I'll save it, and all I need to do is remove all of these. Event type, change first line there for event, and make sure we go to the add event file. So creating your programs, if you think about it and you design them correctly, then really it should be quite simple just to extend your programs with different files to perform the work. It shouldn't be too much difficulty. If you don't design it very well, then you're going to have quite a lot of work to do. So I'm going to save this and then check it out. So I'll do this one, add event. Bound to get errors, but we'll sort those out. Event type. So if I say birth and submit, data was added to the database. The only thing I can think of is just not putting a value in at all. Submit. You must supply an event. Perfect. This does not check for duplicates, so I can enter birth again, and I'll have a second birth as an event, which is not very good. We can control that in various ways. At the moment, I'm not interested in controlling it. I'm only interested in getting the files working. Maybe I can have a look at the database later. But as it's really designed for myself to use it, I don't think I'll be putting many duplicates in. But just to be on the safe side, I might later put an index on this and make it unique, okay, so that we can only have one kind of event. But for the moment, I'm not really bothered about that. I'm just going to browse, make sure that the data went in. There we go. Event ID 1 birth, event 2 birth. So that was a real quick edit from what we've done before, and made possible by having the code refactored and made easier, keeping the functionality. It's a bit more logical to play with. So the next one we're going to be doing is the add the lived at table. So we're going to start putting data into there, but it is a little bit different. In the way we approach it, we're going to make it work first, and then we're going to think about a little bit later on how to actually pull information that is useful to put in there. But that will become evident shortly.